How are you this morning?
Great.
Good. Glad to hear it. All right, is everybody warm enough? Yeah. Big change in temperatures for sure. Thank you, my friend. Beautiful, beautiful. I want to talk a little bit with you this morning before we actually get into the whole concept of love, about Advent per se. Now, I know that we've spoken about Advent, and you watch each Sunday as we light a different candle. Faith, peace, and today love, and next week will be joy. There are 4 candles, and they represent attributes of what we call Spirit of God. And they're to be, shall we say, used in meditation each of the weeks. So I don't know that I ever mentioned that to you at the beginning. So as this is the week in the candle of love, we have a wonderful little Advent book. But for me, I'll read the Advent book. But I get that candle, in this case it's the pink candle, in front of me, in my consciousness, and that whole feeling of love. And I do my best to try and walk the week in that feeling of love. And I have a friend who says, "Just the week, Sandy? You're getting off easy. What's the deal?" Well, the deal is, I like to see and view Advent as a time that kind of puts it all home for me. Yes, it may seem to be in a ritual, in a box, if you will, but I think that sometimes we could use those reminders in a very focused way of what we are about and what is our mission here on earth. We are children of God. We know we are loved unconditionally, and it is, as we know, as we say in unity, is in the demonstration that we can see and feel the greater awareness of the love within ourselves. So I had read an article recently in the Post called "Make It a Blue Advent This Year." And it was written, interestingly enough, by a woman named Diana Butler Bass, which also caught my eye. And she was saying how she loved Advent, but this year, because of a variety of reasons that we won't go into necessarily right now, some personal, some worldwide, some nationwide, she felt like she was just blue, and she didn't really cotton to the colors and the candles of Advent. So she bought all blue candles, and she lit, and is lighting, a blue candle each week. But she said something that I thought was really important about Advent, whether you have the color of the candle, whether you light them at the right week. Advent is a time of watching and waiting, a time of waiting for that light to come up higher, to burn brighter. Not that the light ever goes away, and that's what the candles symbolize. For many of us who, in this period of Advent, Christmas holidays for some people, are not necessarily the brightest spot on the calendar. But when we light a candle in the darkness, we don't take away the darkness. We light our lives and we bring our light up higher. And what I thought she said was very good. Advent recognizes the profound spiritual truth that we need not fear the dark. Instead, wait there. Under that blue heaven alert, the signs of dawn are coming. Watch, for you cannot rush the night, but you can light a candle. Just take that in. You cannot rush the night, but you can light a candle. Trust that the waiting is active. Trust that the waiting is active, making ready for what comes next. When the sun rises, there is much work to do. And so I found her words in this particular article important for us to at least have with us and take into us as we move through this Advent season. There's more to this time than just the lighting of the candles. There's more to this time of preparation than making sure that we have the right gift, or we prepare the right food, or we say the right thing. I think it's a time when we are watching and waiting for the brightness and the light in us to come up higher. I'm very fond of Richard Rohr's work. And Richard Rohr talks about the meaning of spiritual love. So let us turn to this candle of love. And he says, if you have never experienced human love, it will be very hard for you to access God as love. If you have never let God love you, you will not know how to love humanly in the deepest way. He describes, through the work of St. John of the Cross, this is his process for love. And I'm simply presenting it to you as something that you can consciously meditate on, consciously see if it works for you. And the reason I'm doing this is because very often that word love, it's very similar to faith and peace. They're just blanket concepts that we have individualized based on our own experience of love, of peace, of faith. And this is his, if you will, way of describing the process of love. You give a piece of yourself to the other. You see a piece of yourself in the other. This allows the other to do the same in return. You do not need or demand anything back from them because you know that you are both participating in a single, bigger love. One that fully satisfies and creates an immense inner aliveness. You accept being accepted for no reason and by no criteria whatsoever. That is spiritual love as he explains it. When we are in our human form of love, you can bet, I know I've done it, I've had my criteria for whether I'm going to love that person or not. Spiritual love has no criteria. There is no judging. There is only pure acceptance. Human love is when we start to put boxes, turn signals, stoplights, clues for what it is about this person that I should love. And we preach, certainly in unity, it preaches the right word we share in this educational experience. To love one's self is where we begin. You start with loving yourself, and then you express that love to the other person. Divine love is that expression with total acceptance. And I want to tell Kathy as I was sitting next to her today, because this subject is so near and dear to my heart, I have over the years collected many, many papers. And unfortunately, the one that I want this morning, nope, it's not there. Nope, I've got it with me. I know what it says, so I'll just say it. And then I'll tell you who said it. You cannot fully love another person until you fully love yourself. John Lennon. Yes, he was in an interview with Ernest Holmes, not with Ernest Holmes, but with Temple Hayes, who's a Unity minister out of Florida. And Ernest Holmes and John Lennon, she put together their works and their speaking in an essay. And I found the fact that John Lennon, who wrote, as you know, Imagine, and All You Need Is Love, among many others, said quite forcefully, you cannot love another person until you fully love yourself. And what Ernest Holmes said, if you're not familiar with Ernest Holmes, you might look him up. Ernest Holmes said, yes, I think that's correct. I agree with you. But to love myself, to wholly love myself, I have to accept myself just the way I am. Yes, we do. And therein lies another aspect of divine love. Do you accept yourself just the way you are? It's just a question. That's the love of self. Or are you always looking at yourself, wondering, why am I this way? Why do I think this way? Why do I act this way? And that's not to say that we all don't need, some self-improvement. But self-improvement, or coming up higher, or expanding your awareness, that's where spiritual love comes in. That's when you accept yourself just as you are, right here and right now. And that's the way God accepts you, right here and right now. It's a huge way of being. It's a new way of being for most of us. We don't necessarily walk around accepting ourselves fully. And my challenge to you is, look at where you are in your life. Do you accept yourself fully? And are you fully present to other people? Do you love them just the way they are? And now let's make it a little more personal. Most of us have wonderful times during this time, whether they be with family or not. But family can be that area where we have the greatest test pattern going for what we believe. I think I mentioned to you Ram Dass, that quote from Ram Dass. If you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And I bring that out from time to time because this is a time of family. This is generally thought of culturally and spiritually as a time of family. We all have different families. We have families of origin. We have this family here, Community on the Hill. We have the family of man. We have the family of the United States of America. We have all that goes with that. We have the family of the world. So the question is, how are you loving yourself? And how, therefore, are you loving your fellow man? Is it with acceptance? Now, some of you probably are beginning to rise off the seat and say, I'm not accepting that. Take it back. I can't do that now. I'm not going to take it back, but I'm going to ask you to look at the passion that's there around that, the righteousness, the injustice that you might feel. And just take a look at how that racks up in the spiritual domain of loving all, of seeing the love in others, of accepting, And so we begin this week of love, and I'd ask you to just be careful with the questions that you're asking, and also to know that when we ask questions like how do we love, when do we love, do we love, there's a healing process that goes on even in the question. You are bringing forth into your consciousness the concept of love as you see it. And you're asking yourself, during this particular focused time, just exactly, what is love? Am I the love of God, here and now? Do I see the love of God in all? Do I see the love of God in me? And Richard Rohr, to finish with him, says, and that, my friends, is what we call the naked now. It is the moment, unvarnished, plain, simple, naked now. I am who I am, and I love I am. God bless you.